This is a conversation with Chelsea Pinky. She is one of the three hosts of Black Girls Texting, which is a podcast. It's like an hour-long dialogue where three women, Chelsea Pinky, Glenn Pogue, and Sade Parham, unpack conversations that are held in their group chat. And, the idea is that society focuses so much on the idea that Black women are strong and, Black girl magic, but Black women are also, ordinary people. And, Black girls travel, Black girls laugh, Black girls live, Black girls text, right? And so that's the kind of concept behind their podcast. And it's done very well. They have like 100,000 downloads and counting. And their guests have included Amanda Seales, Meagan Good, Janelle Monae, and Serena Williams, who, if you're talking about Black women, is probably one of the most legendary Black women to ever exist. This is Chelsea. Welcome. Thank you for joining me, Chelsea.
Of course. I'm so excited to be here.
If you're listening, you can't see this, but her hair, she has I guess that's a side part. That's a side part, I believe. Yeah, just a side part. Was that done recently?
I did it on Sunday.
Okay, so that's still pretty fresh. Okay, so you are a podcaster.
Yes.
You're one third? Yeah, 1/3, right, of Black Girls Texting.
Mm-hmm.
You guys okay, first of all, how did you get Serena Williams? That's of all the Black women in the world, probably I don't want to start ranking people, but I mean Beyonce, Serena, I don't know.
Michelle Obama.
Oh yeah, Michelle. Oprah.
Yeah,
Michelle. Oh yeah, you're right, Oprah. That's the Mount Rushmore, I guess. I'm trying to think of who else is up there.
I know, yeah, those are pretty top. That was pretty crazy.
Okay, how did that happen?
So we're Black Girls Texting, and obviously most of our listeners are Black women because we're Black Girls Texting, and someone on her PR team is a listener. So they reached out to us, and at first we all saw the email and we were like, it was something super simple, like, would you all want Serena on your podcast? And I was like, what? Someone's pranking us. Like someone's fucking with us. And it turned out to be real. So that was really how it happened. It was that simple.
Well, that's one of the dope things about like being a creator. Like you never know who's out there receiving it. Like you just don't know who's listening, who's watching.
Yeah.
What was the conversation? I mean, I've watched it, but what was it like? Like, when she joined the chat, like, what was that feeling like? How did the conversation go?
It was crazy. I mean, we've had like a lot of great guests. Like we've had like Janelle Monae, Amanda Seales, Tia Mowry, a lot of great women. But like, as you said, Serena Williams, it's just like, what? And she had just announced her, not retirement, but evolution away from tennis.
I like that.
Yeah. And so it was, Serena was kind of top of mind for everyone. We were all watching the US Open. But she came on to talk about her book because she is a tennis player, but she's also an author and investor and wears so many hats. So she came on to talk about her children's book, which is like this really sweet book, The Adventures of Quay Quay. I don't know if you follow her Instagram. But
I should.
There's this like little doll that's like, it's like a bald headed doll and it's so cute. And it like does these little TikTok dances. And anyway, she's doing like a series of books about the doll. So we talked about that. But yeah, she was beautiful. She was nice, like really kind. So far, I would say that was peak moment for me.
Well, I mean, the podcast has only been around for how long? Like a year-ish?
Like two?
Oh, two. Okay. Well, that's okay. Well, either way, it's still impressive however long it's been. I thought it was a little younger than that. But yeah, I mean, what's that like? 'Cause I think a lot of people start a podcast and then quit because I guess first of all, let's just rewind a little bit because you're from New York, right?
Brooklyn, New York, born and raised, living in LA.
Right. That's a whole conversation right there. What we met, I think I went to a party in the Bronx when I was living in New York. And I think we met there. And which is crazy because I never went out at all when I was living in New York. So I don't know how that even happened. But so you're from Brooklyn. What part?
I'm from Flatbush, so where all the West Indians live.
Okay. And are you West Indian?
Yes, Trinidadian.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So you're from Flatbush. I was in New York pretty recently. I went to Bed-Stuy a couple of times. First time in New York in like 5 years. How long you lived
Damn.
in LA? Yeah, no, I've been gone for too long.
Yeah, that's crazy. I moved to LA in February, but I've been back to New York, so less than a year now. But I've been back to New York like 5 times since I've moved.
Oh, so you really, really, you love New York. I mean, yeah, it's funny. I think I've been avoiding it because I was doing the whole investment banking thing when I lived there, and that's just such a dreary. Like, obviously the money's great, but it's just such a dreary existence. And I also just had things in my personal life that I just was going through at the time, and so I feel like I associated New York with all like those things. So I never really went back that frequently. And I didn't go back for like 5 years, and I went back recently. I was like, oh my goodness, New York is amazing. It's beautiful. Like it's
Yeah.
vibrant. And I was there during the holidays, and like it was just. I like was like, wow, I kind of do I miss New York? Like, like not me missing New York.
So the dream I feel like is bi-coastal because New York is
Yeah.
amazing, but and as a native New Yorker, I feel bad saying this, but LA is also pretty amazing.
Well, yeah, I want to get into that at some point because I like moving to LA. Like we both moved from New York to LA, and like I'd love to hear about your experience. But okay, so what was your like, what were you like college, like college work after college? Like, what was that? What was your career like up until that?
Yeah, so I went to a very small, very white liberal arts college in upstate New York.
I'm
It's
trying to
called
think of which one.
Yeah,
Which
take a
one?
guess.
Well, you started saying Cole something. Colby?
Close. Colgate.
Okay, I know Colgate. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, even though I'm a fraud wearing a Howard sweatshirt,
Is
if
that
you're
your
watching this.
fiance? Well, I think fiance, right? Fiance.
Fiance. No,
Okay,
it's just because I'm a fraud and I wish I went to an HBCU, but
okay.
immigrant parents didn't even know about HBCUs. Anyways, so
At all.
so I went to college there, graduated, had no idea what I was doing. I started teaching. To this day, I think teachers, that's like the most important job in the world, but I was not getting paid what my lifestyle wanted. So there was a mismatch.
I feel that. I feel that. It's funny. I watched the video today on Twitter of like a teacher getting. I guess the caption. You can't believe every caption, but a teacher got beat up by a student for like reading out. I guess the teachers told the student, like the parents, the student's grades, and and I mean, I literally was thinking they don't get paid enough for this. So it's funny that you say that, like that was the mismatch. I remember watching that video. I'm like, oh, like you like they're not getting paid enough for this. And, like obviously, I understand it's complex, pay and like taxes would go up or whatever.
It ain't that complex because in Finland, teachers get paid like at least 100K.
Oh wow.
Like other countries respect teachers a lot more.
Oh well, I mean, look, at the end of the day, like America can always find money for the like defense or weapons or something. I mean, I'm not like the biggest, whatever, like politics person for either side, but I do think that yeah, we just don't value certain things, or the market just doesn't value certain things, but
Yeah.
or the country doesn't. But yeah, so you were like you're teaching what grades?
So I taught first grade at one school, and then at another school, I taught pre-K fours and actually moved up with my class to kindergarten, which was an amazing experience watching them like grow and staying with them for 2 years.
And they probably grow so much in those 2 years because like the younger you are, like you grow so rapidly.
Yeah, I think one of my proudest moments as a teacher was it was when Trump got elected and a lot of the parents were like going to protests and all these things. And at the same time, my kids were obsessed with like superheroes. So it was like two things happening at once, one in my classroom and like one in the world. And I was like, okay, we could make a curriculum out of this. So we were like, me and my partner teacher basically spoke and we asked the children, what is a superhero? And they were basically like someone who helps people that need them, someone who is strong, someone who does the right thing, someone who is always on the good side and beats the bad guys or whatever. They said all these things.
Right,
And
kids.
they,
Yeah.
kids, right? But like they made the connection that activists are real life superheroes. So we taught into that the entire year. Basically, we, at that age, you're teaching them how to write, like early phonics and all of that. So they made signs, we did protests, they figured out what causes were important to them. It was just really cool. So teaching is really amazing. You just
Oh
don't
yeah,
get paid enough.
it's. I mean, I was a really good student, and like I'm someone who remembers the name of every teacher. Like there are things I've forgotten over life, but I remember the name of every teacher pretty much I've ever had. I mean, definitely like first, second, third, fourth. Yeah. Like I remember, like teachers are just so crucial, so crucial.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you spend so much time with them, like versus even like think about the amount of hours you spend with your teacher versus even your parents, right? Or at home. So you consider that you're asleep for kids more than 8 hours a day probably. So you're spending all this time with your teachers. Okay, so then you did that. I guess that must have been around the time we met. So you graduate, you teach. You're like, all right, like I need this. This is this mismatch. So then what do you go into after that?
So then I was like, okay, what else am I interested in? I love fashion. So
you're very fashionable. That's true. You're pretty fashionable.
Thank you. As I sit here in a sweatshirt. But I love fashion. So I just, went on LinkedIn, used the tools, and saw this, like, it was a temporary position at Adidas. It was on their fashion team. So whenever they do like collaborations, got really lucky because I had no fashion experience outside of like working at Urban Outfitters, and got the job. They ended up hiring me full-time, permanent. I got flown to Germany. It was like a very like cool experience, because it was only supposed to last like a few months. And then from there, I went to luxury. So Kering, they're the umbrella company that owns like Gucci, Balenciaga, all of those things.
Oh, wow. Were your friends bothering you? Like, yo, can you give me the discount? Like,
oh yeah,
on the Gucci?
Yes.
Did you get it for them?
Sometimes. Sometimes. And the discount, it was a good discount.
Really? What, are we talking like 20%?
No, 25? Like sometimes more. We would have like employee like flash sales online, and it would be like a pair of shoes for $80. And if like Gucci shoes, they're like $1,200.
Okay, now I'm mad at you because I would have been Gucci down. Like, I'm not even a designer. I'm not a fashion. Well, I have my own fashion story in LA. I'll tell you over the course of this conversation, probably. But I'm not like I feel like Africans have that stereotype of like we like being loud. Like having like like we don't get the simple designer like the Laura Piana or the Bruno Cucinelli, like the one you have to know. It's like we gotta get the Gucci Louis all over. So if I had a plug like that, I would have made sure I was Gucci down.
Yeah. It was a great discount. But I learned a lot. I had an incredible like Black woman boss, which I had never had before. And anyways, during this time, I started podcasting. Like I was in a group chat of 6 girls. It ranged from me being the youngest and then a girl who was probably like 5 years older than me being the eldest. And we would talk about anything and everything in the group chat. Things from, okay, I got this new job. How do I negotiate salary? Okay, I got a package with the new job. How much should I be putting in my 401k? Oh, I'm dating this new guy. Like, what do I wear? What kind of energy do I want to be like flirty and open? Or should I be like conservative and like more like wifey material, like all these things.
Well, hey, you could be flirty and open and wifey material now. I think it's that whole, the reverse. I remember there was that era of the, what's that Steve Harvey thing? Think like a man, wait 90 days. And it's like, a lot of people wait 90 days and then the 91st day, it's trash.
Yeah.
And some people on the first night and they become, live happily ever after. But I feel you.
Me.
Oh, wow. I love the openness.
But yes, we talked about everything in the group chat, and it was all these different perspectives, people in all these different industries. Some of us were freelancing. So Glenn, who's my co-host now, is an incredible writer. She was freelancing. Sade, who's my other co-host, was climbing the corporate ladder. She was a buyer at Macy's, and like to this day is in corporate world. But anyways, we were like, okay, let's record these. And then people slowly fell off. It went from 6 to 3.
So how many years ago was that?
When we first started, God, I should know the exact date. I don't know. I want to say like 2 or 3. I don't know. We were recording in a kitchen, no real equipment. And we just kept doing it. And our first guest was Mandy, who comes from another podcast, Horrible Decisions.
Okay, I actually by the time this is out, I guess this will be public. I've been working with Weezy on something. I guess I don't know if it'll be public by then, but
Oh,
Wheezy from Horrible.
cool.
So yeah. I mean, we actually haven't met in person yet. Although, again, by the time this comes out, maybe that won't be the case anymore. But yeah, we've been working together on something
Very
in the
cool.
podcast space. Not this podcast,
Yeah.
but something in the podcast space.
Cool. Well, yeah. So Mandy was our first guest because I think Horrible, it was bigger than us, but it wasn't what it is now. And she had put out like a call to action on her Instagram, like, if anyone wants me on their podcast, like, I'll be on your podcast. And we were like, oh, yeah, come on our podcast. She came all the way from the Bronx to Brooklyn,
Oh
recorded with
wow,
us. We like partied together after. Anyways, we started having more and more guests. The podcast started developing. We started getting ads and it just started growing from there. And I feel like once you start getting the ads and the notable guests, then you start taking it a bit more seriously. And that's what happened for us. So yeah, it's been a ride and it's
that's
still
good.
going.
That's good. I'm still very much at the beginning of this podcast journey, so it is good to see. Because I think with media, like there's this desire to. I mean, in life, there's a desire for kind of overnight success.
Hmm.
But if you look at most people, it takes, like you didn't have Serena Williams on as your first guest, right? And so I do think it is beautiful. Like, well, as I've been having these conversations with different, guests, and most of them in the creative field, they're, I don't know, sometimes especially in other fields, there's this desire for like instant success, right? Like you want it right away. But I think with media and with just anything you're building yourself, it tends to come kind of slowly and then all at once. So what was
Yeah.
that like? Like as you were doing it and you maybe weren't getting like, because I'm sure the first few episodes or however many, it might be like 10 downloads, right? Or it might be 20, or it might be 40, so what was that like to keep, because I mean, I know you guys were doing it with equipment, but it's not easy necessarily. Like, you have to like get a hoster and a service, and y'all have to coordinate to meet, and you have to have some equipment. So, what was it like
Yeah.
powering through? Because most people, most podcasts stop, I think, after like the third episode, probably.
Yeah, like so many people, and I don't knock it. Like so many of my friends are like, I want to start a podcast, and the first thing I tell them is to just do it, like Nike, because it's like just get started. Like sometimes people plan, but what our podcast is today is so different from what it was in the beginning because it evolves and it develops and you start learning how to put things together and we're still learning. But yeah, in the beginning, for sure, it was kind of like talking to ourselves. It was kind of just like therapy for us to have a time, a hour or two dedicated to just talk through shit stuff. I don't know if you curse on here. Um,
I try not to, although I do. I try not to because you know how
for
immigrant parents,
ads.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, they're
okay.
gonna no, not even well someday, but immigrant parents. I'm like, even if I don't tell my parents I'm doing something, they just end up finding it anyway. Because
Yeah.
well, I guess also whatever. My name is a little bit out there, but I think yeah, I try not to, but it's not an ad thing. Anyone, and I have over the course of just. Although I try to do it if I'm like reading something, if I'm quoting something, but yeah, it's all good.
Well,
So
that's
yeah, I
a
mean,
fun fact about Serena. She does not curse.
really.
Yeah.
Also, I love that you said that she was very nice. I do think that there's like a like that you're more likely, I feel like, to find a celebrity who's mean, who's like, I feel like there's like it's like an inverse curve where like celebrities on like the very low end, like C and D listers, will kind of be mean, and then celebrities on the
Yes.
very high end will be like nice. Like you'll be surprised at like who's really like I feel like the people who are really really big often aren't jerks.
Yeah. Yeah. We had I would say C-list celebrity. I'm not going to say her name, but she was not the nicest. But anyways, so yes, in the beginning, it was kind of just like therapy. And also it was almost like a research project. So it forced us to research different topics. Like we talked about colorism. We talked about, I'm trying to think of some of our early topics, but it was very topical. Like we had a
Hmm.
topic and we sat there and talked about it for an hour. Um, and it was cool. It was like a research project. We learned a lot, and then we started looking for experts in that field, ideally Black women, but now we're open to
Oh, okay.
non-Black women and men. Um, but yeah, that's how it started, and it was great because we were getting to meet all these really interesting, cool women, Black women in all these different fields. And when else would I get a chance to talk to these people? So yeah, it was, I don't know. I just love podcasting. I think it's like a great outlet, but I agree. A lot of people start it, they're not consistent with it. They run out of topics too, is a thing.
Oh yeah,
And
that's true.
then it just ends.
Yeah, or there's no like theme to it, you know. I guess, yeah. What advice? Because I'm a baby podcaster. So what advice would you give to newer podcasters?
I think be consistent. Like, because I think even if you have one listener and they really like what you put out, but then you don't put it out sometimes and you put it out other times, then they're just like, well, I can't trust you or rely on you for my weekly podcast, you know? So I feel like consistency is super important. That's the main thing. I mean, ideally, like branding and having like a theme, I think is great, but sometimes it doesn't work out like that. And I think that's fine.
Yeah, that's the best. I mean, even before I ever embarked upon this, I feel like people would always be like, "Yo, consistency is key." Just and that's why it's funny. I've been recording just like a ton to the point now I'm like, if somebody cancels, I'm like, yes, you know, like I was just recording so many, and I'm like, oh, I don't want this to like, or like I'll be recording something, I'll be like, oh, like someone, you know, because I talk about dating a decent amount. I call it like a stealth dating podcast because I'm talking to all these different guests. Like I'll say like it's like I don't know, celebrities, influencers, people around the entertainment industry, but then I'll just at the end be like, so like let's talk about dating, because I do think dating is just such a like. If you think about Twitter, like everyone's always talking about like splitting the rent and $200 dates, and I don't know, yeah, not that that's not your life. If it ever was, I don't know, but it's definitely not your life anymore. But yeah, I think like running out of topics and just, you know, being consistent. That's very key. So you move. So you're working at So you leave teaching. You're working at Adidas, and then how you end up in LA?
So then I started working at another company. I'm like, oh, I started working at a place called StockX.
Oh, no,
yes, I no longer work there. But I worked there, and it was a remote role. And
what were you doing for them?
Working with like their top buyers and sellers. Like just getting them to use the platform. I think there are better platforms now, but
yeah, I asked a friend of mine because I want to get. I've been like running the. Actually, when we talk about fashion, I've been running these Jordans into the ground that I've had for so many years. And when I get these new Jordans, I asked my friend like, should I like what about StockX? And he's like, no. Like, he's like a big sneakerhead. And he's like, no.
Go on, GOAT.
Yeah, he said GOAT.
Yeah,
and I was also like, I guess Flight Club too. Like I got my Jordans from Flight Club, but he's like GOAT.
Which GOAT owns Flight Club?
Oh, okay. And then he said, I think there's one other one he might have said. I'm using my cell phone to record like backup just in case. But I think, but I'll check. But there's one other one that he said too. But definitely GOAT Group was the one he mentioned.
Yeah, for sure. It's elite. But anyways, so I was remote, and my partner had the opportunity to move across the country, and he was like, "Are you down?" And I was like,
"Okay, wait.
I'm down."
Let's talk about, because you all met like randomly at like a bar or something, right?
Yeah. Wait, how'd you know that?
I follow you on Instagram. I feel like you shared the story. Or maybe, first of all, I follow you on Instagram, and I actually like, I like to, because I feel like not a real pet peeve, like a minor pet peeve is when you watch interviews and like it's clear the interviewer just isn't interested. Like it just doesn't, you know, like they don't know basic facts about the person. And it's like, okay, what was the point? Like you don't care about this person. So I try to do my research, you know, I try to do a little, not like onto the crazy Nardwuar, like I'm going to find out your third grade teacher and like, you know, not that, but just like, oh, okay, like little facts about these people. So yeah, I know you guys met at a bar. Like what was that like?
Yeah. So, my ex-best friend, who was my best friend since I was like 11 years old. But she was one of those friends, like your mom is always like, oh, that person's not your friend, you know?
Oh, wow. So, moms always know.
Moms be knowing. Anyway, so she invited me out to this bar in Manhattan, and I was living at home at the time. And I was like, well, I'm home in Brooklyn in my pajamas, literally in bed, hair wrapped, scarf on. And she was like, well, I want you to meet my friends. Begged me to come out. I get out of bed, get dressed, hair done, makeup done, get on the train at the time, go into the city, and I get to this bar and she's not there.
Oh, wow.
Like, I'm looking all over the bar. She's not there. Not that it should matter, but whatever, it kind of does. I was the only Black woman in the bar. It was just like all white people. It was a very white bar.
Are we talking like, is this Midtown or
No, it was called now love the bar. It's called like Salente or Salenti
But what?
on
I'm trying to
Bowery.
think like what? Oh, Bowery. Okay, on Bowery. Ooh, Bowery.
It
Like
was very
Bowery.
white. It was very white. Not saying that that's a bad thing, but I just would not have been at that bar.
I feel
So, so I'm looking for my friend all over the place. She's not answering. And then I see this beautiful, handsome black man. But I was like, oh, he probably likes white girls because look at the bar.
Okay,
So
I feel like guys get that a lot. Like, I've gotten that sometimes. People like, oh, like looking at your Instagram, looks like you like. I'm like, there's no white girls on my Instagram. Like, no, like
there are white girls on your Instagram.
there's like 3. Okay, I was gonna clarify. There's like 3, but there's like overwhelmingly black girls on my. I think that like guys who appear to, I think that black guys who appear outwardly successful get kind of put in this box of like, oh, you probably like white. Because I've seen people just say like, oh, this person, like a friend of mine said that about another friend of mine who he did in fact end up. Well, oh, this is gonna be actually I don't want because your fiance is friends with like a lot of people who I know. I've never met him or that I know of, but he's friends with a lot of people who I know, like through that
Yes,
whole
yes, yes.
Harvard. I don't know. Did he go to HBS or something? Like I feel
No.
like he knows all the black kind of Harvard
Yeah, it's
finance.
a small world.
Is he in finance?
Oh gosh, I don't want to tell all his business.
Okay, well,
I'm like, he's not on here.
Yeah,
But
that's
yes,
fair.
we do have a mutual friends. For
Yeah,
sure.
you have like Anyway, I just remember that a friend of mine was like had DM'd me about another friend of mine, be like, oh, he's cute. So maybe I'd posted him and she saw it, but she's like, he seems like he likes white girls, and I was like where's that coming from? And the thing is, he did end up actually with a white woman,
Yeah.
but. So whatever, maybe her intuition, but I do like when someone said that about me, like they're like, oh, looking on your Instagram, looks like you like white girls. I'm like, and like, no offense to white girls, I hope have some white listeners of all of men and women, but I'm like, wait, where's that coming from? Like, there's like the ratio of black women on my page to white women is astronomical. Is very like way more like very few white women. Like,
I think black women are just very sensitive to that topic because being like. And I hate using this term because it sounds like annoying and pretentious, but like being like a professional black woman or an upwardly mobile black woman or however you want to, a black woman that may have gone to HBS or a black woman.
Yeah, a black woman who has a Soho House membership.
Correct. Maybe even a zero bond one. She is.
Wait, what's the zero bond? What's that? I don't. That's.
Oh, you're not hip? You don't know about zero bond?
I haven't. I've been.
You're supposed to be in entertainment.
I've been off the scene. I remember I was supposed to have a meeting with Kenya Barris and Wheezy at this. I think it's like the super private members club. It's like a Soho, but even more Soho. I think it's like Santa Monica Bungalows. San Vicente Bungalows.
Oh,
yeah. So I know that one. No, we got canceled. Kenya's the busiest man in the world. But no, I don't know what's Zero Bonds. I mean,
I think when I was there, I saw him.
Oh yeah, people keep. I don't know why. Like we work together on Blackish, but we're not like so intertwined. But people be like, oh, like people have been lately been like I was in Miami for Art Basel, and someone's like, oh, like I went to Soho Beach House there, and someone's like, oh, Kenya's in, and then I texted him. He's like, we had just missed each other, and somebody else, even maybe today or yesterday, was like, oh, I saw Kenya at Soho House. I'm like I don't need like all his whereabouts, but yeah. Wait, what's Zero Bond? I mean, put me on, please.
So it's another members club in New York City. It's on Bond Street. So like, Bond Street, like the sushi spot.
I ran away from New York. Like when I moved to LA, I was like, like my life just I used to leave. I don't know. I used to leave work at like so late and be like depressed, and now it's like, oh, this is great. I get to like go out and just live a fun life.
Yeah, I get it. Maybe give New York another chance, though. It really is a great city. But anyway, so my point is, being a black woman in that space, you can become very sensitive because it feels like a lot of the guys also in that space, black men also in that space, aren't interested in you anymore because it's like all of a sudden the world opened up to them and they kind of forgot home, so to speak. And I think now it's definitely changing. Like I remember like a few years ago, I had a bunch of friends that were like, I will never date outside of my race. Versus now, a lot of them are like, hey, the men are doing it, so I'm going to get myself a white king too.
Wow, a white king. Yeah,
That's what they're saying.
Jack Harlow. It's the Jack Harlow situation.
It's the Jack Harlow. It's the Harry. It's the,
Oh yeah, Harry. I forget about. I mean, he's got himself a queen. I think maybe it's the colorism issue, but I feel like I forget that. Sometimes I forget that she's black. I mean, I don't forget because she's gotten so much hate, but I forget just looking.
Well, she even said that she was in her documentary. She talked about how she never really saw herself as a black person per se till she went to the UK and they were being racist.
Yeah, that's definitely an awakening to one's Anyway, so all right, yeah, I want to beat those allegations. That's all. I want all of us to. I mean, look, unless they apply to you, and in that case, whatever. But I've just been surprised. Like it happened like a couple times when someone was like, "Oh, like your page like seems," and I just feel like, wait, I think it's just because of what you're saying. Because I don't think I give that. I mean, I don't think I get that off at all, and definitely not my page because it's overwhelmingly,
You definitely you're open to it.
But like, I'm just not even. I'm not though. I'm not. But I don't like judge someone who is or anything. But it's just not like I really love black women. Like I just find them so beautiful.
Are you dating any right now?
No. Not really. I mean, nothing serious. Nothing really even unserious. So no, not really. I mean, it's weird. I want to get into that in a second because dating is. I like to close on dating, but okay. So
I saw him there
across the bar. You think he probably likes white women because you're stereotyping.
Right, my being prejudiced.
It's that Kanye line when he gets on, he only asks for a white girl. I think
which Kanye did.
Fair. Fair. But I do think that people see like, oh, this person seems on, and so he might, and it's just like that's not always the case.
It's not always the case, but it is a case.
Yeah, no, for sure. So okay, so and I this isn't about him, but I've seen his because like I said, we have mutuals. I've seen he looks very handsome man.
Very kind person. Anyway, so we spoke that night, went on a date. Few days later, and the rest is history.
What was the date? Where'd y'all go? I'm trying to see where I can try my luck. I'm trying to be fiancéed up.
Well, first we went to a cafe, but I was an hour late.
Oh, wow.
I know. But I was texting the whole time, and okay. it was because of my mom. It was her birthday, and I figured she would go to sleep as normal early, and she didn't. And I was like, I'm sorry, like it's as you knew. When we picked this date, it's my mom's birthday, but I'm, whatever. So I was an hour late.
You also are an attractive woman. Because I do think that like a lot of people can't get away with certain things. I'm trying to like an hour.
I was communicative though.
That's fair.
I didn't just show up an hour late. I was communicating the whole time. But anyways, we salvaged the date. It ended up being a great evening at a cafe. And then he was like, "Do you want to go to the Blonde?" So I don't know if you know the Blonde because you're not a New York person.
I told you I left New York and I never looked back. Like I was like, yo, I did the whole LA thing. Like I did the super LA thing because I was like 23. You know what I mean? So I was like, I bought the G-Wagon. Like I was out with Drake and Kylie and Kendall and B. Like I was just living the LA life. I was like, peace, New York. Like goodbye. Like all like when I used to leave work at 2 a.m. All the artists that I used to listen to leaving work at 2 a.m. It's like, oh, I'm like. We're like cool, not cool now, but like that's my life now,
Yeah.
So I don't know, like I said, 5 years. Like I cannot imagine. Like I used to live in New York, and so go 5 years plus without going back was like insane.
Where'd you live in New York?
I mean, I live in the financial district, right? So I mean, my life in New York, I would literally wake up, walk 10 minutes to Tribeca, be at work until 10 p.m. on a good night, midnight or 2 a.m. on midnight, 2 a.m. Every now and then, at 6 a.m. a couple times, a full all-nighter type of thing. So, I mean, the all-nighter thing wasn't. I probably had like 2 legitimate. Like, I was there from 10 a.m. until noon the next day or 1 p.m. the next day. I mean, yeah, but like, yeah, I was just. But I think certain people like you've been on that whole New York scene. I think certain people, because New York is actually like a lot of work and hustle and stuff, especially with finance and legal and stuff. I think there's certain people who it's like I worked 8,800 hours this week. I get off. I need to turn up and go to Up and Down or whatever's what was popping back then. I don't know. Up and Down.
One Oak.
Yeah, One Oak. I don't know. Marquee, Hudson Terrace, like whatever was cool back then. And I'm the type of person who's like, yo, I worked 8,800 hours this week. And also, to be fair, like when bankers said that we work 100 hours, or formerly we work 100 hours, and you're not like sitting there at the desk for 100 hours, but it's more like you're on call. You're kind of always just, you have to sit. You're just there.
Yeah.
And so. I'm the more of the type who's like, I worked 100 hours this week. I need to just lie in a dark room and like eat Five Guys and like watch Sex and the City, the entire series, or like Snapped or Dateline, or like I'm just I need to hibernate basically. So I never did the whole bottles and models and going out in New York. I was just like, yo, I'm tired. Like I'm not,
Well, that's good. You weren't a total finance bro.
Yeah, I also just never really loved the club. I just don't love the club like that. I'm like, it's loud.
Yeah,
like,
I don't like it
why
either.
am I paying like $2,000 to be in like a tiny area and like this bottle costs $80 at the liquor store? Like why is it $1,500? Like I could never really square the club. Like I'm just not like, what are you like? No, no. It's not for me.
It's pretty illogical. Did you watch Industry?
That's funny. I was working on a show. I was on a show with some pretty big people, and Industry was a show that I watched that was kind of helped inform. Like I was like kind of helping to rewrite a project, and like this really big streamer, and I watched Industry just to kind of get, because it was kind of set in that same sort of world. That's why they brought me on to help rewrite it. But I watched it a little bit for that. But yeah, I mean, it's like, wow, do you like Industry? Do you feel it's accurate?
Well, all my friends say it's pretty accurate. I thought it was really, really well done. I'm like, I can't wait to see what happens next season. But if you don't watch it, I don't want to spoil
I know,
it.
but I watched a little bit of it just to get like, because I was working on something that was in that same universe, sort of. But it was like, I think it was very technical. Like they didn't really explain things. It was kind of like assuming that you already kind of have a background.
Yeah.
Like, so I can understand why a finance bro would be like, oh yeah, because it doesn't really explain to you. It's just kind of like assumes that you come from that world.
Yeah, like a lot of my friends were like, I don't get it, and I was like, oh, I get it, but it was because I had people there to ask.
Yeah, exactly. Like just like certainly it's like LIBOR. Like what's LIBOR, right? Like it's the London income. But like if you're not in finance, you wouldn't know what LIBOR is, right?
Yeah. But yeah, so we met and we hit it off. The blonde was like one of the hardest doors in New York at the time.
That
and we
impress you?
Maybe like a little bit.
Oh, come on. It's okay to be impressed by.
Maybe a little bit.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit. But it ended up just being like super fun. But yeah, when he said like, let's move to LA, fast forward to when we're engaged now.
Engaged
I was like,
pre the move or post the move?
We were engaged pre the move. So we got engaged in November.
Was your immigrant mom like, yo, don't move across the country for no man that didn't put a ring on it, basically?
She did make those comments. Immigrant moms across the board. I mean, I feel like probably most moms in general, right?
I don't know. I know a girl who's gonna move across the country for a guy. They weren't engaged. I mean, it varies. But
yeah.
she also wasn't an immigrant, but I think a lot of moms, would. I don't know. It varies. Love is love, right? You do things.
Yeah, you do crazy things for love. But I always wanted to. I've lived in New York my whole life. Of course I did like study abroad and like went away to college, but as an adult never lived somewhere else. So LA, I've always loved LA. I've always been interested in TV and film. So like now I've been doing like my acting classes and my job is remote. So
let's get into that. Which method or which coach? Like which all right, I didn't know this about you.
You didn't know that?
Yeah, you should hit me. We could come up with a show together. Come on, a New York teacher, fashionista, moves to LA. Like, come on, that's a layup.
I thought you knew that, but yeah, I've been taking classes, and it's very cool because, I mean, I feel like some people look at this as a negative thing, like, oh, everyone in LA wants to be in TV and film. It's so blah 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 industry, which I could see that, but the people I'm in class with, it's cool because they all take it seriously and like,
oh, for sure,
are really into their craft and like are excited about the work they do.
My first roommate in LA, I mean, so I had this brilliant idea. So I had this, I did the classic financing where you live with a bunch of people where you're all working at Goldman.
Yeah.
And, I like Princeton, Penn, Harvard, Dartmouth, whatever bros work, finance bros.
Yeah.
And we had a 3-bedroom, but we converted to a 4-bedroom. You pay a company, to put the wall up like they do in New York. And when I was moving to LA, I was subleasing my room in New York on Airbnb. And it's such a long story to tell to get to one single point. But anyway, I was subleasing my room in New York, and I was getting so much money because it was such a nice neighborhood. So I was like, I'm going to get a 2-bedroom in LA. So I was like, I'll rent out the second room, and it'll be like, it'll pay for the whole thing. And then I moved in. I was like, wait, like this is awkward. Like, I'm having random people in and out. Like this is just not, this is like weird. Like, I remember when I had like a random white dude who was in town for like a conference. It's like, this is just, like, I'm a bachelor. I'm trying to like, whatever. And so I ended up getting a roommate instead. My first roommate was Kofi Cerebo, like, Queen Sugar.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, we had mutuals. Like he was dating a friend of mine. So it wasn't like totally random, but yeah, like, I mean, I also just know, obviously, I was writing for Blackish, right? So I was literally working with Tracy Ross and Anthony Anderson and Lawrence Fishburne and all the, Yara and everybody. I think Marcus and Kayla and Miles. And so, but yeah, like acting is definitely, it's like I think everyone does, but when you people take it seriously as their craft, Kofi take it, like, he deserves so much of why he's where he is because he took it, like, he's a real actor. Those like kind of moody, like emotional, sort of like dark, like
is he like a method actor? Does he like change who he is for the like?
I don't know if he is. I don't think he's. I think he's just like how artists just kind of have sometimes this sort of aura about them.
Yeah,
just this
I know
sort
what
of
you
like
mean.
Yeah, this sort of like
Very
moodiness,
pensive, like
pensive and brooding. And like I'm not trying to like he's a dope dude. I love him.
No, talented.
Yeah, but he's very like I remember one time like one of my first LA experiences was he was I won't say which show, but he was like very very close to getting on this, being the lead for this really big show. I mean, it was still a pilot, but like and it's a big show. And his older brother was a guy named Kwame who just knew everybody in LA, like named like Bieber, Kendall, Kylie, Diddy, Puffy, every Drake. And so Drake was having a party, and I want like me and Kobe been driving around all day. I'm just like listening to Drake, talking about our hopes and dreams, just being 23 and 21, whatever, 23, 21 maybe. And Drake posts on Instagram a video of Drake with Kofi's older brother Kwame, like at a party. The party's getting set up and whatever. I'm like, yo, we gotta go. Like we gotta go. And Kofi, like I'm over here, and we hit up his brother. His brother's like, okay, Kofi, you're my brother. You can go, but if y'all both want to come, you gotta bring. I'm gonna curse 10 bad bitches. And so I'm like, all right, like, cause I've been in LA for a little bit. Like I've
you can find 10.
Oh yeah, to go to Drake's house, you can find 10 real quick, and especially in that era, like 2015, like not that I mean Drake is even bigger now, but there's just a certain like So anyway, but Kofi just did not like, and this is also I think partially because he grew up in LA, so he's been around all that stuff. But he just was like, no, like I have a major audition tomorrow. Like,
right.
I had to drag him, and we like. It was a whole longer story, but I had to, come on. And like, yeah, he just always cared. And like, a lot of these actors, like I've been talking to a lot of actors for this podcast, and like, yeah, like just that passion, that like intensity and that singular focus. Cause like you said, everyone is trying to do it, right? So you have to really
It's a lot of competition. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot of competition.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been great living here. I think it's always good to try new things, even as an adult, stretch yourself a little bit. As I said, I'm born and raised in New York. I go back home, and I told myself this too, like I need to not go home so often. But when I go home, it's like, cheers, like everybody knows your name, like you have friends everywhere. You run into people, you go to Dumbo House and like you're going to see friends. Here, I don't know anyone here. So it's like a different muscle of making new friends and all of that stuff. So
are your co-hosts in New York still?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, yeah, it could be. Like, I had a big kind of tribe, and like, I had a couple friends, and I just kind of made a bunch more. Also, I think just also like my friendships were genuine, and they, like, I've been up and I've been down. I still have pretty much the same friends, but I think also being like 23 with like this really nice car and like your own place, and like writing for Blackish as it's becoming Blackish obviously helped. But I definitely had like a big tribe in LA. So yeah, I mean, I can understand like the isolation. But I'm sure you'll find like your circle, especially if you're in acting classes and if you're going out. Although I guess if you're married, if you're engaged, that, because I don't know, a lot of like friendships could kind of just come from like aborted relation, like someone trying to talk to you and maybe it doesn't work out, or you're like whatever, and then
No, it's real. It's definitely like, obviously my best friend here is my fiance. Right. And then I was lucky I have one other friend that was my roommate in college, so she lives here too. But yeah, meeting new friends here, it is different because it's not like we're like going to the club together. Like I'm not really on that anymore, or like I'm at a different space now. So
you're engaged. I mean, I also think that like it's hard to make friends in like adulthood, just in general, because it's like if you think about where you make friends, it's like school, work, and church pretty much.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, like I remember, like I'm like, okay, well, I'm not at school anymore. My work, writing for Blackish, like I got very blessed and lucky and fortuitous to get on in TV writing so young, because LA is a very much, even acting too. People always think that acting, it happens overnight. Like people are grinding obscurity, whether it's Brad Pitt, John Hamm, have stages where they're sleeping on somebody's couch and stuff. And so like I got on that writing stuff so early, but like all the Black is a show about parenting, right? So everyone's kind of parents and like older, and then I don't really go to church, although there's this one church in LA called One Church. I don't know if it's still there, but the pastor was married to Meagan Good. So I was like, yo, like I know God is good, but he can't not be that good that you get to marry Meagan Good. Like, come on,
oh my God, she was on our show too. Oof,
she's gorgeous. She is gorgeous. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I want my pastor to have like a very homely, just like just a nice matronly. And they've since, I guess, divorced. But yeah, I'm like, they just. But One Church is very, I don't know if you've been there, if you go to church, if you're religious, but One Church is very like hip. It's like the hip Black church, like in Hollywood.
Ooh, or maybe, like, I want to go.
Like, I don't know if it's still that. I haven't been in a long time. Also, I don't know, like the pastor had like a big book, and like he was married to Meagan Good and all that. But it was like kind of like the hip, young, Black actor-y church. Also, there's one church called Agape, in like, I think it's like in towards Inglewood, Ladera area, I think. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it's like you realize, wait, like those are the places you make friends. So like, if you're not in those places, then like, making friends in adulthood is weird. Like, I think basketball, like Black men, it's like a good, you might play pickup basketball and like make friends through that. But
it's also harder in LA in general. I think it's easier to make friends in New York than in LA.
Yeah, okay, let's talk about that. I want to know, like, New York versus LA. Like, I feel like Black women are treasured more in New York.
Yep.
In LA.
Yes, that's a thing. In LA, it is preferable to be biracial or exotic looking, or that's like the currency here, I've noticed. But in New York, it's more like, it's more real, I think. Yeah,
well, I think that like in any like city, because someone's gonna listen and be like, oh, like New York, like what, New York doesn't have colorism, New York doesn't discriminate. Obviously it does, right? Like you go to any door of any, I don't care if it's there's that whole thing about Future banning fat woman from some club when he was in Miami. It was like a few years ago.
What?
Yeah, it's like a few years ago. It was like one of those viral Twitter things that like basically Future was at a club in Miami. It was like, yo, like no fat women. But so I do think that like obviously people discriminate regardless. But I do think, like, I remember this is March 2019. It says that Future shut down a Miami club last night and told them not to allow fat girls inside.
That is terrible.
Yeah. So I think that like there's actually in any city there's like a level of discrimination in those types of venues. But I think like I also think LA, like I don't know, I want to talk to a plastic surgeon, because I never know if like they can only do one face, or like if everyone just asks for the same kind of Kardashian face and like the same kind of BBL body. Actually,
I can connect you with one. I know a Black man.
I know one too. Although I know his ex-wife or current. I don't know. They're going to like a very terrible divorce. It's like a horrible divorce. But that's the only one I kind of know. But yeah, you can connect me. But yeah, I don't know if it's like, I would presume it's that everyone just wants the same face and the same BBL. And I remember you said something recently about all the BBLs that you'd seen.
Yes.
Like you saw so many, and some of them are just so many. Some of them are
in
so
LA.
like, oh yeah, and some of them are just so cartoonish. So like it just, like I saw one in Houston sometime recently. I was like, you should like sue. Like you should. I didn't say that to the person. I didn't approach
Damn.
him. If I had been alone, maybe I might have just been like, hey, who did this to you? Like, let's talk about this. Because it could be maybe class action. I don't know. But yeah, it does. Like, I know I guess a friend acquaintance who I feel like she left LA because she just felt like people aren't checking for me here. It's like she's like in her mid-20s and like late. It's like guys, like it's just not, like LA just doesn't. I feel like Black women from LA can go to New York and like just be put on a pedestal and like a guy like find love like that.
Yeah. I had a friend. She's not a close friend, more like a friend of a friend. But yeah, she left LA and went to Atlanta recently. I don't know if it's gonna be better in Atlanta, but she was like, I am of the age where I would like to find my partner. I want to have children soon. I want to get married soon, and it's not happening for me as a dark-skinned woman in LA. And so she left.
Yeah, it is. It's funny. Like being in New York for, all of 5 days, but for the first time in 5 years, I just noticed certain things instantly. Just like I feel like in LA, everyone's just like beautiful. Like I feel like your barista
or
maybe
like
I'm just,
fake beautiful.
yeah, okay, like whatever. Everyone. I feel like beauty is the currency of LA, right? Like
Yeah, you're right.
there are people who are like professionally good looking, right? If you want to be an actor, you want to be a model. So like, and also like now we're in an era of like more self tapes and things, like auditions where you tape yourself on your phone. But even now, I mean, especially before self taping auditions, you know, every actor and model is gonna have a job that's flexible. So like waitressing, Uber driving, you know, that's the thing. So like your Lyft driver, your Uber driver, your waiter, your waitress will be like pretty,
good looking.
Yeah, and like I think obviously like beauty's subjective, but you know, like conventionally attractive. And I feel like when I was in New York, I would, you know, like briefly, but I was like, oh, like there isn't, like people just look. There's a more variation in the look. Not saying that people are ugly.
People in New York are ugly.
Yeah, I know that's what it's gonna come out as. I just think that like you're like I don't know. I just think in LA, like I remember I got off the plane one time. I was like, are there just no fat people here? Like I think I hadn't been in a while. I was like, everyone's like hiking, everyone's drinking matcha, and everyone's drinking bubble tea, and everyone's super into spirituality and manifesting and like you know, astrology, and like it's very like there's such different cultures.
It is a thing. Like there's this T-shirt that I saw that I almost bought on Etsy, and it said, "Too dumb for New York, too ugly for LA."
I think New York values intellect more, where it's you know, it's like and also and even just like where'd you go to school? You know, like I remember like back then. I don't know if you were in these circles as much.
Like pedigree.
Pedigree. Like I remember there were these two dudes who lived. Like I was gonna say what school they went to, but they went to an Ivy. Who lived in Harlem, and like their apartment was kind of like the poppin' like black. Like there's always like some black dudes who come out of Harvard or Princeton or wherever, and like their apartment is like the poppin' place, and like it's like you know, girls, and like all the girls who were like, I felt all the girls who were like teachers and stuff like that were trying to bag like their Ivy finance bro. I mean, am I wrong about that? Is that you were the?
That was not. I mean, to be honest, that was not my thing. I was dating a rapper.
You're dating a rapper, like a local rapper, or like a major rapper.
No, local rapper.
I mean, actually, the party that we met at in New York, the guy. I mean, he's like not a rapper. He the guy who invited me was a rapper, but not like he like rapped, but then he was like in college, but then he like had a professional job.
Yeah. But I can see what you mean. Like, yes, it's like a thing of and I think that's a very East Coast thing in general, right? Like even when I went to my boarding school, I went to boarding school. I didn't know you went to boarding school. Wait, what boarding school?
I was in the middle of nowhere in Virginia, like through this program called A Better Chance. Like it was,
I was in A Better Chance.
Oh wow, look at us! All right, yeah, A Better Chance. It's called Woodbury Forest. Like, it was in the middle of nowhere, Virginia, like super southern. Like, where'd you go?
I went in Pennsylvania to a school called the Hill School.
Oh yeah. That's a very well known one.
Donald Trump's sons went there.
Yeah, shout out Trump Jr.
Yeah.
He has more, wait, but all his sons. I'm trying to think. There's Trump Jr. and there's another one. Eric.
Two went to Hill.
He has a lot of kids. He has like 5 kids by 3 women. He's like a rapper. He's like a rapper. He's very much like a rapper. Actually, he reminds me of a rapper a lot because like he like doesn't care if you die. Like he still beefs you. He still like, because I feel like I remember
McCain.
I remember one time Boosie was like on a Vlad TV interview. Boosie was like, so and so's dead, but it's still F him. And I feel like Trump is very much like, yo, like, yeah, like my ops are still my ops. Like it doesn't matter like if they're dead. Well, all right, so you went to the Hill School. Okay, that's very fancy. I mean, you know, but okay, so that was never. But
I remember this girl at Hill saying, "I need to get into Princeton. I need to get into Princeton," and everyone was like, okay, like why specifically Princeton? And she was like, because my husband has to be from Princeton.
See, yeah, it's such
in high school she was thinking like that.
Yeah, it's a thing. Like I don't like, and so it's interesting that why do you think that wasn't a thing for you?
Probably because I come from like a working class immigrant family, and
but wouldn't that make it more of a thing? Like I need to like find my like.
No, for me, I was raised more like, you go to school and you go to a good school and you get a good job, which I mean, I don't know which one's right, you know, find a partner that has all those things, but I wasn't like focused on that at all.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, yeah, it's interesting. So like you're engaged. I mean, what's that like? 'Cause I feel like we're in this, I don't want to call it an era, but like we're in this time when it feels very much to me like there's been a vibe shift where like having quote unquote hoes just isn't cool anymore. Like I feel like guys of a certain age. Oh yeah. I think it's a good thing. I mean to the extent that anything can be good or bad, but like guys of a certain age, I feel like used to kind of be about bottles and models and like flexing and like flexing was the table and the section and the woman, and I feel like now the flex is like, look at my beautiful fiance or like my beautiful girlfriend, like we're going on vacation, like we're like
I love that. I'm glad that that's the perception. Maybe that's true. I think maybe a piece of it has to do with the city girl culture of like, take all this man's money, run him up, use him, abuse him. So no man probably wants to be like a Mark, or what's the word? A munch. Where like you're just like Albie from White Lotus, you're just getting used up.
I didn't watch White Lotus. Okay, it's funny that you brought up City Girls because I have this theory that like I would say that I have this theory that City Girls caused Kevin Samuels in the sense that like City Girls like like broke N-words don't deserve no pussy, like swipe the visa, this and that, and then that kind of ethos kind of spread, and then Kevin Samuels like, hold up a second, that is for certain types of people, not you. And but I mean I don't know, it might be a thing. I think that like as like I'm in that 28 to 32 age range where I feel like people are starting to really like, you're starting to see people get, you're engaged and people, have like get engaged, get married, have on purpose kids. And it is very interesting.
Do you feel pressure now? Like that you need to do the same?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think
good. I'm glad. I hope all guys feel that.
I don't know. I think that it's one of those things that's weird because it's like, okay, like, everything looks good on Instagram, right? Like, so, you're seeing, like, I see the matching pajamas or the vacation. I'm like, man, like, I want that. Like, that looks, but I don't, the behind the scenes might be completely different, right? But yeah, I do think, I don't know, I've been definitely feeling very, like, girlfriend pilled lately where it's like, oh, like, I think, like, this is that, like, I just think that's more meaningful than, like, I don't know. Like, I told a story where, what's his name? Russell Simmons, actually New York legend, was dating Kofi or whatever. My roommate moved out. I guess I already said his name. So Kofi moved out, and he'd been dating this girl. Amazing, love her. She's an actor. She's like a legitimate. Not that some actors aren't legitimate, but she's like been in stuff. And she moved in because she was already there all the time anyway. And at some point, like, God, am I like doxing her now? Like she was talking to Russell Simmons, and like me and Russell got cool because even if you're Russell Simmons, you still want to be cool with the girl you're talking to's friends or roommate. Yeah. I remember one time I saw Russell at Soho House, like surrounded by, this when all the Instagram girls, this is like before OnlyFans. So all the Instagram girls were doing like skits. And like when Instagram had introduced like longer videos. And I remember seeing him at Soho House and being like, this looks kind of pathetic. Like, you're sitting at this table surrounded by a bunch of like 22-year-old girls. You're like almost 60. Like, it's like, it's like that Drake line, no one wants to be 70 and alone. Like, do you really want to be like 58 and like kind of chasing around a bunch of whatever? And then like I thought about it for a second, like, wait, why do I pity him? Like, he is worth like half a billion. Like, if you gave most guys a chance, like, hey, like, you want to be worth $500 million and a bunch of 22-year-olds want to sleep with you when you're 60, they'll probably be like, oh yeah, sure, like, but
yeah, but what is that word? That's not
well. So I feel like, but now like lately, I think because of the pressure I've been feeling and just people I've been observing, the pendulum has swung back to like, I don't want to be that. Like that. Like, obviously I'd love to have his wealth, but like I don't, like I want to wake up next to somebody who I really know well and who
actually cares about you.
Yeah, and actually cares about you. And I think that because I've been seeing, even like, I mean, not you necessarily, but like people like you, right? Who are really like, it looks. I mean, even having been like, I've been in 2 relationships, like one in college, one during the pandemic. So really 0 because college ones don't count and pandemic ones, do they really count? I don't know. But I think that like even just those experiences, really being the pandemic one was like more adult because you're not in college anymore, and just like the peace and just being, especially as everything was closed, right? So you can kind of just be with each other and like cook and just like enjoy each other's company. And so I think I think that I don't know if it's just an age thing or a thing that I'm truthfully observing, but it does kind of feel like that's like having. Being it's not cool anymore. It feels like the guy who graduated from high school and still comes back to the parties. But I don't know if you're seeing that too. But I don't know if maybe it's in my head though. I don't know if this is a real thing.
I think it's a real thing, and I wish you watched White Lotus because that's also a theme in the show.
Really?
There's like a grandpa in the show who was a total womanizer and now he's alone. Then his son also was a womanizer and now is trying to bring his family back together because he misses his wife.
Oh my goodness.
So I think it's like a real thing. And I think yes, it must be so fun and thrilling to have all these, girls, whatever, but they don't care about you. They don't care about you, and you must know that. Like you have to know
Yeah.
that they don't give a shit about you. So it must be nicer to have someone that genuinely cares about you, I would think.
Yeah, it's also interesting. I don't know how well, I guess you dated a rapper, so I assume you're into rap a little bit. And like I think about like the rappers of our time, right? Like I would say like the big three, really the big four, is like Future, Drake, Kendrick, and J. Cole. And like
Hmm.
kind of seeing the music of Future and I was like Future and Drake is very, they're 36 and 38, but they're still, and like there's no age limit on certain things, but it's still about like the club and buying girls this and that and just that kind of bachelor lifestyle. And then you kind of have Kendrick and J. Cole who, have partners and are kind of living more of a family man lifestyle and kind of like the different, like the, like, and you like listening to 444. And I know we all hate that Beyonce allegedly cheated, but we listening to 444 and like listening
She
to,
did?
oh, sorry, not Beyonce. Sorry. Oh, wow. Edit that out.
Oh.
Jay-Z, the Jay-Z allegedly. But I think that like listening to 444 and listening to Jay-Z rap about like parenting blue and rap about like marriage and even infidelity and like,
Hmm.
like, I don't know. And then you have some certain rappers. I love Drake and I love Future, but it's like at what point does like the strip club kind of get old? Like at what point
And it's
does sort of,
weird. It's
I
weird.
mean,
You're 40 talking about
okay,
the club?
Drake is
That's
36,
weird.
Future's 38. I think Future's 38. It's funny.
Like, I know we need club music and like we need that in the atmosphere. And, my partner loves
Oh, Drake
Future.
is. I mean, sorry, Future's 39. I didn't know he was 30. Oh, he just his birth. No. Oh yeah, his birthday just came up. Okay, it just happened. So
It's
yeah, I don't
weird.
know. I
Even
don't know
Future said recently in an interview, he said his next stage, he wants to be married. Did you see that?
oh, I didn't. Was it? I know he had an interview with Kevin. Rest in peace, Kevin Samuels. But yeah, I don't know. I think. I'm sure like for them it's like, okay, like how do I meet somebody who wants me for me, and like, there's probably
Yeah.
other things, but I do like I am starting to feel like I'm like, okay, I'm like 31 feeling this way, so I'm like, imagine like being 36 or 39, like just being like throwing money at the strip club and just I'm buying this girl a Birkin, I'm buying that, and it's like I don't
It's
know,
pathetic.
that's funny. You're like the second or it's because I brought this up and I had a girl who went very ham. I was like, yo, yeah, they're like who went in on them, and I was like, okay, whoa, I like them. Like I don't, I'm not trying to like invite slander, but it is like interesting. Like as I don't know, it just feels like you reach a certain age, and it's like, oh, like even like I feel like the guys who are kind of like the biggest dogs, like the biggest sort of outside, and like the New York kind of finance bros who are really putting up, just doing their thing. I feel like the
Hmm.
bigger the dog the guy was, like now even the more like he is into his family man sort of era.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
I think I think so too. I've definitely observed that, and and I'm happy about that.
Okay, but I mean, as a woman though, like, because I think women have like additional sort of pressures. I mean, societally and even just biologically, certain times. So like you having been, because I feel like okay, in Texas, in the Midwest, you get married when you're like 18, 19. Like you throw a rock and it hits somebody, you marry them. Like if you're living in,
Yeah.
some of these like, oh, I was like Ohio, whatever. Like I'm making generalizations, but like more
Yeah.
religious rural areas. Versus if you're in New York, LA, people tend to get married more like late 20s, early 30s, even maybe mid 30s. So like I feel like you're kind of early on the scale. Because I feel like you're like 1 year behind me, maybe like. So or I guess
I'm
not early.
29.
Okay, so you're two,
Yeah.
yeah. So I feel like I always like to think of like I always think put things. Maybe I'm just stuck in college. I think of like okay, I'm class 2013, like you're whatever. Um, so like you're kind. I mean, okay, I guess you're not early, but I feel like for the kind of East Coast people who went to college and like you're probably one of the first of your friends, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then my other friends that are already married, they're older than me. I think it's
Yeah.
definitely different in like coastal cities.
Oh
Like
yeah, for
people
sure. Like
wait
the
longer.
people do. And so like, what's it like being one? Cause like my college roommates. Well, I won't say roommate. Harvard has this thing called blocking groups. Where, like you get to up to 8 people. Like people are like, oh, you had 6 roommates. I'm like, no, we didn't have 6 roommates. Like we had like 6 people who lived in the same. Like Harvard has these houses that are kind of like it's like Harry Potter, and so you get to
Oh,
pick up to you get to pick up to 8 people at the end of your freshman year who you all get sorted for sure into the same house.
that's
And then
cool.
you can link with another group of up to 8 to make sure you won't be in the same one, but you'll at least be in adjacent ones because some of them are further out. But anyway, like of the 6 of us, 2 are married and then 1 just became a father, which is insane to think about. Like my college, whatever, becoming like being a father. But yeah, like I think that's like normal, right? Like for like in the South, that would be like unheard of, right? Like you should be on your baby number 5 by then. But what's it
Yeah.
like? What's it like being kind of among the early ones in your social circle? Like, because are people like, is there jealousy? Is there like, You know, like what?
No,
Like,
I think a lot of my friends, okay, a few of my friends, it's like kind of split 50-50. Like I feel like a few of my friends are still like out having fun, living their best life as they should. They're young. Like meeting guys, getting free meals, you know, whatever it is that you do.
the streets are just the streets are just not. I mean, I don't know.
And that's the other half. The other half is like, I hate it here. Please introduce me to someone. I hate being in the streets. The apps have ruined everything. These men all suck.
You think the apps have ruined everything? Because
I've never been on one.
Right, I don't do the apps. I'm not an app person, but
I just missed it.
well, you guys have only been dating for. Were you always like a relationship person? You were dating a rapper. You're in a relationship. Okay. Well, I feel like when we met, were you in a relationship? I don't know.
No, I don't think so. But I had probably just finished.
Right, you just curved me because I was joking. Anyway, so yeah, so okay, so your friends, so half for, yeah, I don't know. I think it also might be one of those grass is greener things, or just a phase I'm going through. But it just does feel like the streets are just like I feel like I'm turning. It's like, yo, get me out. Like, but then people are like, okay, if you really want a girlfriend, you'd have one. Like, so are you just like are you
That's
just
how I
saying
feel. I feel like the world is your oyster. It's way easier for men than it is for women, in my opinion. I could think of 20 girls right now that I could set you up with.
Oh wow, it's funny, man. I joke that matchmaking is my new passion because like I was in New York briefly. I'll talk about like how New York is so much easier for Black women. I was with a friend of mine in New York. She moved from LA to New York, and she was saying, "Oh, like I was like, how's dating been?" Like we caught up, and you know, and she's like, oh, it's been hard. But I was like, why? She's like, yeah, I just can't, whatever. And I was like, wait, like, and she was explaining it. She's like, wait, I was like, wait, you're the one who's turning them down. Like you're the one who's ghosting them. Like that doesn't mean dating is hard. Like that's not what people mean when they say dating is hard. They usually mean the opposite, that they're getting done dirty. But she's like, oh yeah, basically like it's hard, but she just meant like she can't find a guy that the issue isn't that she's getting dogged out. The issue is that like the guys they all want her, but I mean they want her, but you know whatever. But I ended up setting her up with somebody, and I really like. I'm like, yo, I might have just found my new passion. Like they're like setting people up is like very. You feel a lot of joy.
Yeah, it's very rewarding.
It's so rewarding.
Not that I know your friend's situation, but I have noticed with my friends, and something that I'm talking to them about a lot is a lot of women in this like community that we spoke about of like Black women, professional, whatever. They have this list, and I wish women would like let go of that list a little bit.
Is it like requirements or what?
Of requirements, like, okay, he has to be over 6 feet. He has to make, you know, the 6 figures. He has to be go to an Ivy League. He has to like all of these things. And I'm just like, you're missing out on so many good people / the things that you're valuing aren't. Some of them are important.
Hold on. Wait a second. I have to call you out here because I don't know too much about your partner, but based on the mutual friends that we have, I believe he probably checks every single one of those requirements.
Yes, but I was not walking around with my list.
Oh, okay, that's fair. I agree that
like I was just if I had a vibe, you know, I had a vibe, but I wasn't like writing people off because they weren't on my list. I have friends that will write you off because you're not 6'2".
Yeah, I'm lucky. I'm like 6'3". Some people have been saying 6'4" lately. I don't know. I don't want to claim
Wow.
6'4". Yeah, I don't want to claim 6'4" because I feel like that's a lot of pressure. But I think I claim 6'3". But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I agree with you in the sense that you find things when you're not looking for them. Like both times I was in a relationship, like, I've never been one. Except for right now, and not even really right now. I've never been one who's like looking for a relationship. But both times I just met somebody and was just, you know, we just clicked. You know, we just clicked. So I agree that when you're not looking for things. Also, I have to ask: are they saying Ivy just period? It doesn't have to be undergrad, right? Because like I feel like I'm sounding like a hater, but I feel like you start throwing the grad schools in there. I mean, you meet people like, oh, I went to, you know, HBS, but they're like, I mean, like I don't have any personal animus against Morehouse or something, but you know, or Howard or whatever. But it's like, you know, just anywhere else. I don't want to just call it HBCUs. But I feel like,
right? I'm like, damn.
Yeah, I'm not. I know. I feel like people will be like, they'll claim the Ivy, but it's like, you didn't go undergrad, like, come on. But I do feel like if they're saying Ivy period, including grad school, that's a lot of people. That's not the craziest requirement. It's a crazy requirement. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like the wildest.
Yeah, I don't know. Also, I think when you look at the numbers, it's just unrealistic.
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't blame them. Like I think about because I've been like very up money wise. I've never been like very down, but I've been like up and down. It's like entertainment. Like you know. Like, I'm making like a ton of money on The Simpsons, and then, you know, like, but I'm saying like things are like, things ebb and flow, right? And so I don't blame women necessarily for the money things. I think like when you're not like the more money, like this is maybe a personal failing, but like the more money I make, the happier I am, right? The happier I am, the better of a partner I can be. And so I don't, and also like who you end up with is like probably the most important decision you'll ever make. So I don't blame women for like not wanting to struggle, right? Although I think that, but there's obviously like a difference between like, oh, like he has to make this exact amount versus like, okay, he has ambition, he's on a trajectory. Like
he has ambition.
But I wouldn't blame a woman for like not wanting to struggle. Like I can't because I don't want to struggle. I mean, like
yeah. No, I feel you. I don't blame them. I just think like there's these lists that have become so rigid and
okay, so height. I don't mean to, but what's like put me on to like what's on this list? Like height.
Like there's so many things on this list.
Okay, no, come on. Let's. I want to dig into this.
I mean, I don't have the list. That's the thing.
But your friends have the list.
Okay, my friends have the list. So he has to be tall, make a lot of money,
6'2" plus. Or 6, okay.
Be in a good industry, like so making money in a way that they like, like a way that they can be proud of.
That's silly. If you're like making money, but you're like a mechanic, like.
Right, like, if you're a mechanic, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, it's 200 or whatever the number is. It's still whatever the number is, right?
I just like Kevin Samuels, right? R.I.P.
R.I.P.
I thought a lot of the things he said was like very disgusting, and I didn't like how he spoke to Black women specifically. But some things he said, I agreed with. A broken clock is twice.
Well,
twice a day.
Yeah, I think people call him misogynistic when I would say he was more of like a misanthrope in the sense that like I felt like he was an equal, like he would say things to men and women, but the things he said to women would go viral because people like to see women put down. I think people just like, I also think that people are more used to seeing men put down. Like I think that like no scrubs, right? Like I don't want to broke, like I don't want to, no, I can't. Like how many bills, no scrubs. I mean, obviously, the entire City Girls, like every single word of every single City Girls album is saying, broke people don't deserve, broke men don't deserve whatever. Right. And so I think that it's also just like no one's really seen somebody just say like just put down women, especially Black women, in that sort of specific way. But yeah, I mean, it is. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's also, but I think the other thing with these lists, though, I think you're right. Like, I think especially the money aspect. I think that like, I think I've forgotten. Like because I was blessed to kind of like never really. Like when I was like, I never really had that like terrible job, right? Like when I was in college, when I was in boarding school, I like was a proctor in the library for a little bit. I'm like the junior, senior in high school, and then like going into college, they had this thing called dorm crew at Harvard, where like you would clean up the dorms like after you show up a week early from freshman year and clean up the dorms after summer school, but before the students got there. Which
I think is crazy and weird that is a role for kids that need a job. But
yeah, it's funny as I get more distant from it, and people have said in the past, like, because obviously that ends up being disproportionately black kids. So it's like these Black kids' first experience at Harvard is cleaning up, which is Although it's funny because there were also like some random white kids who I think had money, and maybe they just wanted to do it for whatever reason. Some of them, but I do think that like but freshman year I would like you could basically sign out to clean toilets basically, and but my freshman summer I worked on Wall Street and then made enough to where I was like, I'm not doing that again. And so I haven't had that sort of struggle job necessarily, but I do think that like as I get older, I'm like, oh, like most people just don't, like the median Black man probably makes like, I mean I can look it up, like 30-something thousand, right? So I think that when you start to talk about, oh, you have to make, honestly I think the girls are gonna be like, well, I'm obviously not, like I'm dating in a different pool. I also think, I don't know, you have to be realistic, right? I don't know, it's tough because like I think even I sometimes, like, because of this, I listen to City Girls and Drake and all this stuff, I'll think, oh, you have to, like, like, you have to buy girls Chanel's and Birkins and, like, you have to trick, and it's like, wait, like, the people who are doing this, it's like the same 200 men, like, we can name them, right? Like, James Harden, Drake, Future, whatever, and, and it's like the same 400 women, 500 maybe who experienced that, like the Lyra Galores and the Caruccis and stuff. Like it's not really like I think it's easy to, especially with like just the social media and City Girls and Kevin Samuels and Instagram to think that that's what you have to do. Like the typical black man just can't even buy a Birkin. You know what I mean? Like can't do those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Have you seen that? There's this thing that I saw on Instagram, and it's so weird because I have such mixed feelings about this topic because I am a black woman and I want the best for black women and I want black women to experience luxury and the soft life and all these things that are going viral. But also, like, there's just like a part of it that is, it's just like the numbers it doesn't work that way. Like, there was this thing called the delusional calculator on Instagram.
Yeah.
And this guy used, the US Census, and he was like, okay, if you want a guy that makes like, he was like, okay, I want a guy between, 30 and 45 or whatever.
Right.
I want him to be at least 5'11". I want him
Right.
to make at least $100,000 or more. He can't be obese. And like the percentage was like 5%.
Yeah. I mean, people.
And it was like all races. So then when you start breaking it down to like black men, if you want, black love, it's small.
Yeah. I mean, it's also, it's tough. And I think that like, so I mean, the median household income for black people is like, I mean, depending on like the where you see it, it says like, 40, basically in the like 44,000 to 48, 40, let's call it like 45,000. And then if you so that's like, but that's household, right? So like that's like, so like for a black man, it's like it's probably 30, like low 30s, right? And so I think obviously like the people who are in a lot of our circles aren't necessarily like in median. They might they're not quote unquote the median, but I don't know. I think it's just I agree that if you start putting these sort of lists together or these requirements, you might. And also, but the other thing too is I think that like I said, I think sometimes I against the idea that like, oh, you have to be buying the Birkin and tricking and sitting courtside and doing all these things. And then like I've met like I think black or just women in general. Like, I remember a friend of mine or someone I know was going through like a horrible breakup. Just like it was like one of those like just terrible. And I remember I kept thinking like, okay, what is it that I don't know about this guy? Like, is he like I kept waiting to hear that he just was some sort of ball, and it's just like he was like a normal guy who had like a good, like a decent, like an okay job and like a place, like a studio, like, but it wasn't like he was. I saw one thing that a girl said to me was like, but if you love somebody, they are like, basically like guys don't have to be, Drake or whatever. Cause if you really, really love somebody, then they basically are that to you. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter that, oh, he's not futuring you out and like, and that's why I actually talked to a woman who did have that lifestyle, the one who was with the plastic surgeon. She said, the whole future thing of like, oh, would you rather cry in a Rolls Royce or cry in a Honda? She's like, I've cried in both and like, they both sucked. Like it's like I was like I was trying to remember the exact quote, but it was just very like, oh yeah, like that like she's had the whole Bel Air mansion, all that stuff, and it's tough. I don't know, it's weird. Dating is it's weird because I think we're in that age where you're not dating for fun, right? If you start dating, and I think that's a pressure that a lot of guys feel, where it's like if I'm dating someone, and let's say she's like 30, right? Like if you date for 2 years, she's like 32, like. You're not
She's
just,
trying to have a baby soon.
Yeah, like you're gonna like you're not dating for fun. Like you're like it's like okay, I'm gonna propose within the next year. Like I feel like the standard dating. Like how long were y'all together before he proposed?
So unsure because we met and we're talking. So I don't know when we officially started dating, but I would say at least 3 or 4 years.
Okay, all right. Well, that's different. I feel like a lot of times when people meet, and you all were like. I guess you were probably more mid-20s if it was 3 or 4 years. But I think that like people in that like late 20s or early 30s, like you might date for a year and you might propose after like a year. Like it's not like, it's like what do I like you've been dating long enough. Like you know what you like, and you know what you don't like. So I think it's like sometimes you end up having to kind of abort things early because you're like, okay, well, I don't know if we're going to get married. Or I don't know if I'm a place to be thinking about marriage and kids. So like, let me just cut her loose.
Yeah, and it's also can be a little unreasonable. I mean, I totally understand if the woman is like of a certain age and she wants to have kids naturally, but it also could be unreasonable because the first year of dating is very different than year 5 or year 6 or year 7 or year 8. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah, I don't know.
I also think it's a choice. My thing is like there's like ups and downs in a relationship, so you have to like choose to want to be with someone and put in the work. So
Yeah, that's true. I think sometimes we think it's easy and like leave at the first sign of or, the first or second sign of distress versus like no, this is something that's because like I mean I doubt that like you look at your friends who are single and like envy them. I doubt that like
Yeah.
you're like oh like this looks fun like what's your like
Sounds
yeah
terrible.
it does
The apps.
yeah it does. Okay, so are you still into fashion these days?
Yeah, for sure. I need not to be because I understand that we're about to be in a recession.
Yeah,
So I need
already
to,
in one
or are
maybe.
in one. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, I love fashion. Um, I need to chill.
Do you think New York or LA has better like fashion? I feel like
New
I know,
York.
yeah, New York. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. New York is obviously the fashion capital of. I don't know if it's the world, but most
Yeah.
places. It's funny. LA is very like I have a like LA is very into fashion. I remember when I got to LA, I was still dressing like kind of like preppy East Coast sort of, or not even sort of like I was,
Yeah.
and then Kenya and this other guy on Blackish like are big sneakerheads and like kind of I mean Kenya's more into fashion now. Like I feel like I see him in these crazy wealthy man outfits. But like they would like make fun of me. I was like I don't understand like what like I'd wear like Levi's jeans and I don't know. I was just like I don't understand. But they would make fun of me. And I remember like it came to a head when like I would go I was going out. I mean you probably saw my Instagram. I would always go out to all these like celebrity functions. And I remember one time me and my friend Kofi's older brother who like knew everybody, we would like leave the club and always go to some person's house. And so we were going to Tyga's house. And like some, certain celebrities would be more accessible than others. And I think Tyga was being kind of a little bit closed off because he was I think him and Kylie had recently had some sort of issue or some public thing. And I remember, we pull up and Kwame, Kofi's older brother, was like, hey, let me go in and check it out, whatever. And then, he goes in with the girls that we had brought from the club because, having a G-Wagon in LA is like a cheat code. People will just leave with you. I'm like, I could be kidnapping you. Like, what? You're just you'll leave the club.
God.
Yeah, you'll leave the club. And, like girls you hadn't talked to, even seen inside the club, will just get in your car. I mean, I'm assuming it's because it was a G-Wagon. I don't know that for a fact, but
No, probably.
and then be like, oh, let's go to. I don't know if you've been to Barry's, but like the pizza place that's open late. It's not like on Third or something. LA's changed a lot with the pandemic, so I don't know. But anyway, so he goes inside with the girls, and I'm like waiting, and he comes, he's like, yeah, like, and he's like, yeah, they said you're not good, basically. He's like, you gotta step up your swag, and I was like, what is wrong?
Are you serious?
Yes, he's like, I was like, what is wrong with my swag? Like, I'm dressing fine. Like, what is I'm there's nothing wrong with the way I dress. And so it was BET weekend. Yeah, I used to think it was All-Star weekend, but it was BET Awards weekend. And I remember being like, okay, that's it. Because like that week, Kenya and whoever had kind of been giving me a lot of shit for it. And then that whole thing with the Tyga's house. So like, so I went and bought like 2 or 3 pairs of like G-Star jeans, which like, by the way, like those jeans cost like $180, $120, $180. And I've never spent more than like, I go to Macy's and get like the $40 Levi's. I was like, okay, I got these G-Star jeans. And I got I got 2 pairs of Jordans. And I remember I went to this thing on like Fairfax or something, and like YG was having this event. BT weekend, everything's popping, whatever. So YG was having this event, and I went with this girl who's she dates some like a starting quarterback now. I'll just say like we weren't like dating, but we were just like we were hanging out, and I went and like I also used to going out with Kofi's older brother Kwame. We'd always get instant walk in right in anywhere. And so I went to the front of the line of this YG pop up. I don't think YG was there. He wasn't there, but it was like some sort of pop up for his album. I walked to the front of the line. I wear my G-Star jeans and my Jordans. I went to the front of the line, and they're like, "Oh, what's your name?" It was like a white dude who had a clipboard. He's like, "What's your name?" And there's this black bouncer dude, and the white dude's like, "Hey, like, what's your name?" And I just say my name. I'm not on the list. I just say my name. He's like, "I don't see you here." He's like, "But you look so fresh. Just come on in." I was like,
Wow.
I was like, wait, what? So. Like
good for you.
Yeah, it's like my first day in my new clothes.
And your new G-Star jeans. Your magic jeans.
Yeah, my same Jordans that I still have that I need to get rid of because I've been running them into the ground. I've been playing, I've been working out, playing a lot of basketball. But yeah, I was like, oh my goodness, like this fashion thing is really. I mean, I guess in LA, like, I mean, I still don't think I'll show you some pictures on. I don't think I dressed bad.
Yeah, I think probably LA, it's more like name brands versus actual fashion. Like New York is perfect for you to ride the subway or even just like sit in a park and watch, and you'll see the different like variations of how people put things together. Like it's more like style and like just like uniqueness. And here it's kind of like what brand or am I skinny enough that I can literally wear a bra and low-rise jeans?
Oh yeah, I mean that's everyone's like crazy. I remember like when I was in LA, I heard about like, oh, this girl, she kept saying she was a plus model, not a plus size model, because I guess like plus just sounds better than plus size. But I'm like, you're like a normal sized American woman. You know what I mean? Or like you'll see someone like, oh, like the first plus size model for Calvin Klein. It's like you're just like a normal. You're like skinny. You're like
Yeah.
you're skinnier than most people.
Right.
But yeah, no, it was weird. I was like, this is my first day. Like, and it's funny, I looked at a picture of that outfit. I'm like, I was wearing like this RIP. I was wearing like this Kobe jersey and this like white t-shirt and like some G-Star jeans. Like these, like, I don't know. I don't think it was anything. Whatever. I still to this day.
It worked.
It worked. I'm baffled. But anyway, it's been a pleasure. Where can people find you and find the podcast?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram. My Instagram is Chelsea Pinky. But more importantly, the podcast is Black Girls Texting. And we put out episodes every Wednesday. We have some exciting things lined up in the new year, so they can find us there.
I'm moving to Tuesdays because Wednesdays I put the first one out on Wednesday. I'm like, there's so much on Wednesday. Okay, wait, there's one more thing I want to say. Black Girls Texting. I love that title because I saw that you guys on the website and everywhere it says it's because there's this whole thing about black girl magic and it's like, black girls doing these. And it's funny. I think that during the pandemic, the girl boss died. Where like this idea of like, the girl boss, I'm gonna, everything. I'm just doing everything. It's like, I just want to chill. It's like, why do we have to kind of be doing everything? I feel like Black Girls Texting is kind of that same sort of thing where it's like, why do black girls have to be magic? Like, why can't we just be texting? So I think that's like a very cool
the name,
ethos.
the title is like super mundane, super regular. I think something that was so special about a show like Insecure, for example, it showed black people just kind of like, or black women specifically, just like being regular people.
It wasn't about slavery.
It wasn't about slavery. It wasn't like about my black husband beating my ass.
Or like
it
growing
wasn't
up in
about
the projects, right? Like
right. Or me being
bullets.
Olivia Pope and like super and like extravagant, perfect, or like the next Michelle Obama. It's just like I'm a regular person. So we have Black Girls Travel. We have Black Girls Texting. Something super simple. Everyone does it. We're just regular old gals.
Yeah, I love that. I do think that the whole idea of black girl magic, it can be a little bit like, or something like being like, where I'm like, black women are so strong. It's like I've seen a lot of black women say like, we don't want to be like strong. Like,
I don't want to be strong.
Yeah, I don't want to go through.
I want to be a woman.
Yeah, or it's just the idea of you'll see people like, she like relationships where it's like the guy basically saying like she stayed with me through cheating. Basically those long captions where it's like, why does love have to come on the other side of struggle, right? Like,
right.
So yeah, I love the idea. I love the title. Thank you for joining. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. And you have to come on Black Girls Texting.
Oh, trust me, I'd love to. Let me know. We could talk about TV writing. We could talk about being thotting. Well, I won't say thotting, but thotting and bopping around Hollywood. We can talk about whatever. A lot of. We can talk about acting. Even though I don't act, but I know a lot of actors. But yeah, I'm down.
Connect me with your actor friends. Also, is that an Emmy in the back?
No, someone thought that before. It's an NAACP Image Award, and it's it's funny. I thought it was a mistake at first because like whatever year they did it, like I wasn't on Blackish that season. I was in the season before, but they were like, they said it's the calendar year. So I was like, okay, cool. Like it's the calendar year. And then, but you have to order it. And I should find the price because I've told the story before, but like I didn't order it until like sometime in the last year. Cause I was like, it's like, I should find the price, but it's like,
how much is it?
I'm gonna find it right now. So it had to be like around 300 probably. I think like the ones they give you on stage, like if you're, if you win best whatever, like on stage and they hand it to you on stage, you don't pay for those. Like I was talking, I don't know if you know Etienne. If you don't, I'll connect you. His mom is Cheryl Lee Ralph. And she won Best Supporting Actress for I mean, obviously, that's the least. She's obviously the mom in Moesha. She's obviously a whole bunch of things.
A dream girl.
Yeah, it's funny. Like people don't know. Even sometimes I don't know everything that she's accomplished. But I think here it is. NAACP Image Awards trophy request. I ordered it. I ordered it so many years later, and I don't even really know why I did. But I think I'm like, okay, well, it's like a nice prop.
Yeah, I mean that's so cool.
Yeah, obviously it's more than a prop, but like it's a nice use of it. But it was I'll text it to you, but it was probably like 250 or 300 or something like that. Like their inventory, and you have to order it like, and then there's like supply issues during COVID, and it's
I thought they just gave it to the winners.
See,
It's wild that you have to pay.
Yeah, I know. The thing is, if you're oh my, okay, here it is. It was $400. Look, I'm over here short selling it. It's like $400. See, that's why I mean, I've made a lot of money in different things, but I was like, I found $400. That's
Yeah,
kind of steep.
I mean that's a good chunk of money.
Yeah, and for an award that you won it, like
You earned it.
Yeah, you earned it. I mean, I guess look, the NWCP, the NWCP, I guess, has to keep the lights on. And yeah, I ordered it many years later, but I'm happy I did. It's like a cool, I'd love. It would be nice to have an Emmy, for sure.
Soon.
Yeah, so I obviously should have one already, but certain things happen. But yeah, someday. But yeah, it is an NCP Image Award. I'm sure you'll have. I know that I was Wheezy recently posted that she an AVN award. That's like a site. I'm over here rambling, but it is interesting. I love that. Like, not that I love, but like it's interesting that I feel like there's black, like several of the black women podcasts are kind of more sex focused, right? Like Horrible Decisions, Poor Minds, Cocktails. And it's interesting that you guys. I feel like you guys are kind of zagging, like not in that space. So that's also like interesting,
Yeah, I love the sex podcast. I am a fan of them. And I love that we talk about things outside of that because like we're so much, so yeah, definitely tune into the sex podcast. There's so many great ones. Horrible being one of my favorients.
Yeah, shout out Weezy. Wait, I haven't met Mandy. I don't know Mandy, but shout out Mandy and Weezy.
Mandy and Weezy are great.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I'm sure whatever the NAACP Image Award for podcasting is, I'm sure Black Girls Texting, or the NAACP should probably just have one for like web things, for podcasts. But yeah, no, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Your podcast is amazing. I will come on. Just say the word.
Okay. Right, okay. I'm about to look at the schedule and schedule you just right now.
All right. Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you.
Okay. So that was Chelsea. Make sure to like, review, rate, subscribe. Any other engagement verbs that I'm forgetting, check out Black Girls Texting. They're amazing. And yes, we will catch you next episode.